Greetings everyone, my name is Mark. Today is going to be a little bit different. The reason I'm doing this video is because I'm currently writing a guide on Pokemon Red and Blue, and I've decided to sort of make I guess, trailer for it in the form of a tier list. Now, this is going to be also a unscripted video, meaning that I'm not going to follow a script while making this video. So things are going to be a little bit awkward for me, obviously, but hopefully this will sort of improve my ability to talk. Now, full disclosure, I will be I will only be covering Red and Blue for this video. And Pokemon Yellow, Fire Red and Leaf Green, and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are not going to be mentioned, because those games are far too different for me to cover, and things would just get too confusing. Now, another thing that I'd like to point out is that not all of these Pokemon I have tried. Like for instance, Muk, I haven't really tried in Red and Blue. Slowbro as well, and honestly quite a bit more, because I haven't really played a bunch of Pokemon Red and Blue. So I'm sorry. I'm really sorry if it's not going to be like perfect. That's not really my motto, if I'm being honest. Oh, I guess now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's start with number 1 in the dex, or I guess number 3, Venusaur. Venusaur has pretty interesting stats. He's the strongest out of the starters in terms of special, however, he's not going to be strong right away. His first same type attack bonus attack is Vine Whip, which he learns only at level 13. Compare that to Charizard's Ember and Squirtle's Bubble, which are received much earlier. Obviously, he has a lot of good matchups against various gym leaders. However, Grass isn't always a good type to be, since there are quite a few weaknesses the Grass type gives. Or what it does also give are several utility moves, including Sleep Powder, so that's something to consider. I'll probably put Venusaur in A tier. We already have a strong start, and hope not right away, but if you grind enough, he should be fully capable of taking anything on. Next up is Charizard. I have used him for a little bit, and these few moments were not exactly the most pleasant. Well, kind of. You see, the main deal with Charizard is that since he's a fire type, he has a disadvantage against the first two gym leaders, Brock and Misty. So you can probably tell that you're going to need the help of others for him to be useful. Well, he is capable of taking on Brock with just Ember, since the rock types have low special. However, he is not capable of taking on Misty by himself. You need a grass type or an electric type for that. Now there's a bit of an interesting set that you can run with Charizard. Swords Dance. Swords Dance can be potentially useful on him, since it boosts his attack, and he does get a few interesting attacks, mostly Earthquake. Well, just Earthquake, since Slash isn't really affected by changes in stats. So that's something to consider. While he is a popular choice among many players, I think it's safe to say that he's not really the best out of the starters. Probably gonna put him in B tier. He isn't as good as Venusaur, in my opinion. Now, Blastoise, on the other hand, is definitely, well, in my opinion anyway, the best starter in Gen 1. Since he gets since he gets his stab moves very much earlier, without any grinding necessary. Now, one thing that's of note is that, well, how should I put this? He's kind of generic. Well, there are plenty of water types in Gen 1 and later generations especially. So the fact that he doesn't really have too many interesting qualities on him kind of really puts him down. It kind of really doesn't really make him all that attractive. But I must confess that it was I did notice that he was incredibly useful in the matchups that he is capable of winning. I'm gonna put him in A tier, just one above Venusaur. While Venusaur was still great, Blastoise has an advantage in the early game, which makes him a lot more useful in my opinion. Next up is Butterfree. Butterfree is, in my opinion, more of a utility Pokemon. One thing that a lot of these early Pokemon have is that they're useful in the early game, but not so much in the late game. So, like the Bug types, Butterfree and Beedrill, Eradicate, and a few others. So, well, probably. So, what exactly is there to say about Butterfree? Well, like I've said before, he has great utility on him. Since this guy learns a few powder moves, it's honestly not that bad. Plus, he can deal some damage with psychic attacks, thanks to its special. However, I will admit that he's not as good as certain other Pokemon. So I'm going to have to put him. Well, Charizard definitely has more. Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, in B tier. Just one below Charizard. He's definitely useful, but he's not as useful as certain people want him to be. Now, one thing that's not going to be really well. The one thing that's is not going to be of doubt is that Beedrill is not good. In fact, I'm going to put him straight there in D tier. The thing with Beedrill is that he's the physical variant of Butterfree, but Butterfree was already kind of bad. But even still, it had at least decent special. Beedrill's defensive prowess is like non-existent, so it can't really survive anything thrown at him aside from like resistant attacks. And even then, if he does manage to survive, he can't really output that much damage. Unless you go with the Swords Dance route, but his best attacks are either Hyper Beam or his stab moves, or stab move. He can't learn any poison type attacks aside from Toxic and Poison Sting. Twin Needle sounds good, but it's not really good enough to really go for Beedrill. And besides, you can't always guarantee a kill on certain things that are weak to Twin Needle. So you really have to after all, you really have to use something else against those types of threats. He probably deserves the D tier that I put him in. Pidgeot is kind of a generic bird Pokemon. I mean, that's what the flying type was originally. Flying types, or at least some of them, have one interesting utility in flying. Well, except for Charizard and some of the bug types. And Golbat that we're going to cover in a bit. Pidgeot also has the useful ability to use normal stab, not body slam, but double edge instead. So he is going to take a lot of damage. However, that's not really all that enough for him. He was a popular choice because he was one of the first things that you see on Route 1. But I don't think he's going to win any awards in terms of usability in combat. Now, in terms of looks, he might win some awards, but not in battle. Gotta put him in C tier. His offensive prowess is somehow weaker than Charizard. And Charizard isn't even that great at offense, since his attack and special attack aren't that high. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So the fact that Pidgeot is somehow even weaker is not that good. Now Raticate. Look at that ugly mug. Raticate is a normal type. The normal type rodent of the region. And he has some attractive qualities, most notably Super Fang, a move that cuts the enemy's HP in half. And he also learns a special move for coverage, particularly Bubble Beam, Thunderbolt, and Ice moves. It's not really going to save him much, because he can't really output damage, but it is slightly more than Pidgeot's, and he's faster, I think. I don't really remember. So I guess he's slightly better than Pidgeot, but I don't think he's as good as either one of those. So if you want to run a normal type, then I guess Raticate is good, but don't count on him surviving any games. Fearow is kind of better than Pidgeot, in my opinion. He doesn't get Body Slam, but he does get Drill Peck as a better flying stab, which is pretty useful. He's also faster and deals more damage. He is less bulky, but I don't think that was the main. I don't think that's really that big of a deal, because, well, that's not exactly his job. So already we have a great Pokemon, and he's available early, so they get some double points. I guess he deserves to be here alongside Venusaur. Being able to fly is good, and the fact that he can do certain things more than that is pretty good as well. Now Arbok. This thing is a poison type. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Kanto has a lot of poison types, like, not like half the deck's amount, but still quite a lot. Arbok is, well, he's kind of in the same situation as Beedrill, where he doesn't really get any poison stab, so he doesn't really get a lot of poison stab anyway. So he's kind of stuck with very weird attacks. And it's especially weird for Arbok because he can learn Earthquake and Rock Slide. So I guess in terms of coverage he's good, but in terms of power, he's not that great anyway. Well, I guess he's a little bit better than Beedrill, but he's still a poison type. Poison type is also really bad because of the psychic weakness and the earthquake weakness that he receives. For Beedrill, it was just the psychic weakness, but for Arbok, he's doubly doomed. Raichu. Not the mascot, that's Pikachu, but Raichu is I think in my opinion it's actually the best psychic type because of how early you get him. A lot of other psychic types, they're kind of received very late, like for instance Magneton, Electrode, and Electabuzz. However, for Raichu, that's not that big of a deal. Well, actually, all of the electric types don't get Thunderbolt through level up. But that doesn't really matter too much for. Well, it does matter. I don't know what I'm saying. But you can immediately teach him Thunderbolt, which trivializes a lot of problems that he might have as a Pikachu. So that's kind of good. Honestly, he's definitely one of the greatest electric types. I picked Raichu when I was playing it through the game normally, and he was good. He was good. Now, Sandslash is a ground type. One of the earlier ground types you can use alongside the Nidos and Geodude. Sandslash has a few interesting properties. First of all, his level up move pool is just really bizarre. Not really learning any ground type attacks instead of being stuck to Slash. However, he can thankfully mitigate this by using the Dig Team. Secondly, is his access to Swords Dance. Having this is rather useful, as it somewhat makes his already pretty good attack seem even better. Now, on the flip side, he's, well, I don't really know what to call him, but he's not as defensive as some of the other ones because they have the rock type, but that electric immunity is still quite useful and can easily block Surge, if I remember correctly. I'll probably put him in some place like right here. He's definitely one of the better ground types that you can use. Here are the Nidos that I mentioned earlier, Nidoqueen and Nidoking. Well, the Nidos are sort of like mixed attackers. They can utilize a variety of attacks for coverage, and while their power isn't exactly stellar, they can still dodge holes in things thanks to super effectiveness. Nidoqueen is the more defensive one, while Nidoking is the more offensive one. I don't know which one is better. I guess they're kind of on the same level. But if I had to choose one, then I guess whichever the one is more common, because their encounter rates are different in each of the games. Now, obviously, they're not as good as, say, Sandslash because of the poison typing they receive. However, it's not too big of a deal. However, you best put them out of harm's way whenever they're fighting something, because if they get hit, then they're kind of boned. Clefable is up next. It's in a similar vein to the Nidos, actually. It's got a lot of coverage, and instead of being poison type, they're instead normal type. Clefable has access to Body Slam, well, not by level up, but through TM, which makes him a rather good attacker. He also gets access to moves like Thunderbolt's Insania, which gives him utility in some ways. and he has access to Psychic. Uh, well, he's kind of hard to judge because I never really, well, I caught him, but I never really used him. But I will say that he is, that he can be good, in my opinion. I'll probably put him in this place. Because of his normal type, he is placed as somewhat higher than the Nidos. Yeah, that's the only reason, really. Ninetales is up next, and you'd think that Ninetales is up next. It's a fire type. Now, a fire type isn't exactly the best type to be, but for Ninetales, it's somewhat not good, not bad. The main reason I'm saying this is because he is actually the strongest and, well, I think the fastest fire type in the game. And he gets access to flamethrower rather early. Well, one thing that's probably, well, I don't really know what to say about this one since I only barely used him. However, it's probably not that bad, although probably not as good as other types to me. I'll probably put him in B tier, at least above Charizard. Charizard still has that access to Swords Dance, but I think Ninetales is better as a overall fire type. Clefable is just a worse Wigglytuff is just a worse Clefable. That's honestly it. It's really. It's slower than Blastoise, which is a turtle, and Clefable has less special than anything really. It only has 50 base special, so it's not really it's not all that powerful. And despite that 140 HP looking nice, it's somewhat negated by the fact that its defenses are so poor. So it's not really bulky, it's not really fast, and it's not offensively useful. The only thing you can really say is that it learns Body Slam by level up. However, if you are using him, you're gonna have to evolve this guy fast, because as a Clefairy, as a Jigglypuff, it's even worse. Probably gonna put him in C tier. Next up is Golbat. Have you ever wanted to use a worse Pidgeot? If your answer is yes, then I guess go for Golbat. Although there is Farfetch'd, but we'll get to him later. Golbat is just a Pidgeot with a worse typing. Poison is already kind of bad, but it doesn't even get any poison type moves. Not like it used them anyway, aside from Toxic. Well, one of the things that's kind of alright is that it evolves somewhat earlier than Pidgeot. However, that's not really all that useful considering how not good Zubat is. So it's worse than Pidgeot in just about every way except for the fact that it evolves earlier. So yeah, I guess. And he also cannot fly, that's the one thing I forgot to mention. So yeah, he's just not good. Not good at all. Vileplume is kind of a worse Venusaur, however that's not really all that big of a deal. Because, well, I don't really know what to say other than the fact that it's still capable of taking down certain things. The main issue is that it cannot really utilize Razor Leaf, one of the best grass type moves in Gen 1. So it's stuck with either Petal Dance or Mega Drain, which isn't good. Well, I mean, It's got 100 special, which is somewhat good, but I think you're better off with using Venusaur. I'll probably put him somewhere right here, maybe. I'll probably make a revision of probably, but not anytime soon. Parasect is up next. He's probably the best status inducer thanks to having Stun Spore and Spore, regular Spore. Spore is an excellent move for when you want to catch things. Since it's a 100% sleep move, and you can use Great Balls with very little drawback. And that's how we got into this whole ordeal. Parasect is great at catching things, because if it, well, it rarely outspeed, but if it does, you can put it to sleep, put something to sleep, and then try to catch it. With great balls, obviously. Now, in terms of offense, it's not really doing all that great. Its stats are, well, not all. Its stats are slightly lower than Wigglytuff's, but only by a tiny bit. Thankfully, it has a somewhat okay bulk and a decent attack, but its speed is non-existent, I think is the best way to describe it. So, if you're looking to use it, then definitely go for it, but only really as a catcher. That utility is probably one of the best things about Parasect. I'll probably put it in somewhere right here. There's probably going to be a lot of comments about this video, how I'm not putting these Pokemon in the right way compared to what others think. I still think that all of the Pokemon are somewhat decent, in game at least, so there's that. Venomoth is strictly a better Butterfree. They both have similar stats, however, Venomoth has better speed and special attack, so it's capable of statusing the opponent slightly. It has a better chance at statusing the opponent and doing better damage. So good for Venomoth, I guess. I suppose it belongs in this tier. It's available somewhat late compared to most, but you know, when so are certain other Pokemon, it's not really that bad. So there's that, I guess. Dugtrio is a pretty interesting ground type. It's got great speed but not really all that great attack. However, Earthquake is still a good move to use because of its power. Ground type is also great because it isn't hit by electric attacks and Thunder Wave, so it isn't slowing down any time unless you use like Strength Shot or whatever. Obviously, the downside is that it doesn't really get all that interesting moves, just Earthquake, Rock Slide, and maybe Slash. However, he isn't bad, in my opinion, and that's what matters in this case in-game. It isn't, like, horrible to use. It's probably better than Sand Slash, in my opinion. Persian is very similar to Dugtrio in a lot of ways. It's got great speed and not great attack, however that doesn't really matter too much because its typing is really good. In this case, it's a normal type, which gives it access to Stab Slash. Yeah, it gets that move. Which would do ludicrous damage, except for the fact that it learns Slash kind of late, so you'll be utilizing other attacks, like Body Slam for example. Another thing that this thing gets is a thing moves like Bubble Beam for coverage against the rock types. So if you have Bubble Beam on the Persian, you're likely not going to lose the matchup if you suddenly play a Persian against like Onyx. So that's good. I think it deserves an ES tier placement. There's that. Golduck. Golduck is just like Blastoise, but with Amnesia. Amnesia is a popular move in competitive, and Golduck doesn't really get it in the regular games. You get it through Stadium. However, there is a few ways that you can get Golduck from Stadium to Pokemon, to the Gen 1 Pokemon games, even in modern times. So it's not like guaranteed that you won't be able to get him. Obviously, well, I don't really know where to put him. The thing with Golduck is that he doesn't really have all that he has like balanced stats overall. Surprisingly, he has more attack, more physical attack than special. So that's something to be surprised about. I guess I'll put him like right here. Obviously, the lower placement behind Blastoise is that you're able to get Blastoise much earlier than Golduck, and Golduck and Psyduck specifically evolves kind of late, like 33, which doesn't seem that bad. But when you consider that you can only get Psyduck by fishing, it's really awkward. Primeape, ugh. Fighting types are just not all that good. Psychic types are everywhere, and Primeape doesn't really have a lot of options against them. I guess you can count the fact that he's one of the earlier fighting types that you can get, but it's not all, well, first of all, it's not all that great of a type to be, and he doesn't really get any fighting type attacks by level up, at least. The only one that really deserves a mention is Seismic Toss. Yeah, because you don't have to waste a TM on it. But other than that, there's just no real reason to use Primeape. He's not as bad as the poison types, but he doesn't really have too many options for in-game. Arcanine is, well, I don't know when I will actually finish my guide on Pokemon Red and Blue, but the way I described Arcanine is basically that he's slower than Ninetales, weaker than Ninetales, and evolves Flamethrower much later than Ninetales. Arcanine is just a worse Ninetales. There's no way around it. He does, I mean, like, in-game, like, what would you rather have? Flamethrower, which gets Stab, or the one-time use Body Slam? You'd rather use Body Slam on something that can actually utilize it, like a normal type. Or maybe, I don't know, a Swords Dancer? Not that you'd really use Swords Dance. It's in-game, because it's kind of a niche strategy, in my opinion. Well, I guess the one thing that's kind of good about him is that, well, not really good, but weird thing is that in later gens, Arcanine is actually better than Ninetales, except for that one time where he isn't better, or something. It's mostly because, between Gens 2 and, in Gen 2, Arcanine's special attack is higher than Ninetales'. So, I don't really know what to say here. It's such a fall from grace for Ninetales until like Gen 5 when he gets drowned. But I guess that's That's just how it is. Moving on. Olerath is up next, and now sure, it's a fighting type, but it's also a water type, meaning that it has some potential. It has some potential. Surf, Blizzard, and moves like Earthquake and Hypnosis are all good. However, another thing that he gets is Amnesia, like Golduck. Poliwrath is well, he's also slightly bulkier than Golduck, so that's pretty useful. Well, I haven't really like used Poliwrath again. However, I will admit that he has some use, in my opinion. I don't know if he is achieved somewhat later than, say, other Pokemon. Because that's a category I'm basically apparently on, right? But he's still good. He is still good, I think. Now for the Abra line. One thing that I forgot to mention that I'll do in these tier lists is that I will do the here's how I'll cover the trade evolutions. I will cover the trade evolved one as well as the pre-evolution to that. So like for Alakazam, for instance, I will also cover Kadabra because not a lot of people were capable of trading. That said, yeah, I think there's not a big surprise there. Alakazam is just really good. Alakazam is fast and strong especially. Sure, his other stats are not as good, but that doesn't really matter when you can just kill things. Psychic obviously is good, and there's not really much to say about him. He also gets recovery, so he can stay alive somewhat, and that's pretty much it, really. He's just good. That's somewhat of a good trait. And meanwhile, Kadabra is still quite useful. In fact, you know what? Yeah, there we go. Kadabra is also quite good, because his stats don't really differ too much from Alakazam. So if you can get Abra on your team, then you can basically just kill everything. That's just how it is. Now for the Machamp line, things aren't going to be as easy or hard to talk about. He's a fighting type. That's all I got to say. Fighting types are just like, you know what? Look, I have used him before, but I haven't really built up a relationship with this guy. He's a fighting type with Earthquake and Rock Slide, but like there are far better Pokemon to use, and Machoke is just like not even trying to be anything, in my opinion. Oh god, this thing. Well, I mean, like, he could be good, but honestly, you're better off with just anything else. Yeah, so there's that. Also, for the fact, like, he's slow and trying to be a defensive one, but his stats are just not all that good. 130 base attack is attractive, but I don't know. You could go for like anything else. I'm sorry, Machamp, that's just how it is. Alright, next up is Victory Bell. One thing that I kind of glossed over, and probably for good reason, is that There is a move in game that's just like absolute torture to you, to well not use, but be caught in, and really unfun to use. Not really, but I don't really like this move. It's rap. Rap, especially on Victory Bell, can be quite dangerous because it gets sword stance. Not like you'd use a sword stance with rap, but it's something that he can do. So obviously I'll probably put him in like above. No, he's not really that good. I guess right here above Venusaur. He also gets Razor Leaf and the power moves. So he has a lot of qualities same as Venusaur, but it's just rap that's the big problem. And I guess this is also the thing that Arbok gets, but he's not nearly as good because he's just. I mean, he's faster, but like he's a lot more frail because not really. I think he's frail. Well, not really, but like he doesn't have a good defensive typing. Neither does Victory Bell, but at least Victory Bell has the option of putting something to sleep. And there's that. Another rapper is Tentacruel. Tentacruel is also a poison type, weirdly enough. I kind of never realized how one of the first rappers in the Pokédex are all poison types. So one thing that's kind of interesting about Tentacruel is that, well, like a lot of poison types, his poison typing is a pure detriment. However, he's got good special at least, so psychic types aren't really as big of a problem. However, ground types are, well, not really that much of a problem. They can still hurt you quite a lot. And I'm not really sure what to put him. Is he better? Well, I guess, yeah, that's kind of better. Rap. Why is rap like the most the move that I just don't like rap. That's just how it is. Next up are Graveler and Golem. They're both quite good. The normal resistance they get from the rock type is kind of good. These two are like very similar in terms of being ground types. You can get them both pretty early if you gain enough levels. Now, Graveler isn't as good as Golem, but they're both admirable ground types. So there's that. I guess that makes sense. I guess we're moving on. Rapidash is somehow even worse than Arcanine. Arcanine at least has like somewhat admirable attack and speed. Well, it's very similar to a Rapidash, but Rapidash doesn't get Flamethrower anymore. He doesn't get Flamethrower, he only gets Ember and Fire Blast, which, yeah, I guess is not that big of a deal. Well, in fact, you'd rather use Flamethrower, but no, you deserve it. My point is that if you want a reliable attacker, just use Ninetales. And if you can't get Ninetales, use Charizard. Arcanine is not all that good, and Ninetales is somehow even less reliable. Well, not really reliable, but you get him much later. So there's the issue of that. Slowbro is interesting because it's just kind of funny. His base special is not all that high. It's only 80. So you'd think that he's kind of only a defensive psychic type and water type, but consider this: he gets amnesia. Yeah, uh, I guess he kind of deserves to be here. Well, no, not really. Yeah, you know what? You deserve to be here. Obviously, amnesia is like one of the best moves ever to use. And because he's so defensively oriented, he can survive a few hits before dishing them out really hard. There's that. Magneton. Okay, so one thing that I want to say is that a lot of electric types are kind of basic. Like, I don't really like the electric types of Gen 1. It's not that I hate them, I just don't really find all that them all that interesting. The Magneton is sadly like not the best one. Like, not even close. I mean, he has good special, that's something, but like he only learns electric and normal type attacks. Everything else is a status move. What's well, if there is one thing for me to say is that he does get better in later generations. Just, I can guarantee that. But for now, he's just the second strongest electric type, although not exactly the second best. Farfetch'd is up next, and I mean, yeah, pretty much it. He's not that great in combat, but at least he learns some HM moves. Most notably Fly. Actually, Fly is his strongest stab attack, so that's something to consider. Now, one thing that I guess is kind of worth mentioning is that he gets Stab on Slash. Now, you'd think that would kind of make him somewhat of a decent attacker, but no, he has 65 base attack. So you're not really getting any mileage out of that. Now, going from the weakest flying type to possibly one of the strongest. Dodrio is well, not my favorite, but he's just really good. He gets Body Slam, he gets Drill Peck, he can learn Fly for some reason, and you get him pretty early on. After the third gym, if I recall. So he's pretty much he's really accessible, is what I'm trying to say, and he's very easy to use. You just use normal types, normal type attacks, and fly type attacks. And there's that. For thing you say. I guess that's all there is to say. Fly like the wind. Dugong is up next, and it's basically just like Blastoise and Goldenk with an ice typing. It's actually the first ice type in the dex. However, well, it's gotten pretty. It's received pretty late, but I think it's kind of worth it. Because that ice typing is pretty, well, not essential, but it can be useful. It can be useful in some situations, like against lands. So if you're afraid of Dragonite being potentially a problem, which it normally isn't, which just wanted to warn you, you can use Blizzard on it. So there's that. Luck. Oh, look, it's a poison type. Yeah, it's immediately on, like, right here, I guess. Luck gets Body Slam, but not Double Edge. He gets Mega Drain, and he gets Exploded. I don't think this is good enough for him, but I don't really think this is really all that good. I'm sorry to anyone whose favorite Pokemon is Luck, and there's just nothing for me to say. I'm sorry. Cloyster. He's well, he's the water type that I've been using, and honestly, he's slightly better than Newman. Mostly because of his higher offenses and defenses. He has a pretty high defense stat, so he has quite a lot going for him in terms of survivability. Well, kind of. His special isn't really that high enough combined with his HP, so he can potentially get bodied. However, otherwise, he's pretty good. I guess I'll put him right here. Yeah. Next up, we have the Gengar line. Gengar itself is like a slightly worse Alakazam with Psychic and Thunderbolt and access to Hypnosis and I guess Explosion. There's like nothing for me to say about him. He's a Poison type, which already is kind of good, but he's fast enough that it's not really that big of a deal, in my opinion. He can potentially live long enough for him to land a potential Hypnosis or strong attack. Well, there's that. And Haunter is just like strictly worse than him. If like Gengar was somewhat decent, then Haunter is kind of not. In my opinion, I think he's like below. Well, there. In my opinion, in-game is like dependent on not using too many TMs and relying on stab. And Haunter just doesn't really fit those qualities. I mean, he's still good, but I just wish he was a bit better as an unevolved tradable evolution. Onyx, he deserves to be here. I get that was the entire point of him, but that does not mean that he's good in combat, sadly. I guess that ground typing can be useful for him, but he can't really like perform any damage. He can't do any damage. So that's quite the issue. We're moving on. Hypno is basically the defensive counterpart to Alakazam. He has a pretty good special, and he's not too shabby on the physical side, I believe. So he isn't too afraid of anything, in my opinion. Well, I think. And he gets Hypnosis, which is pretty useful. So, I guess, you know what? No. They're both pretty similar. Not really, but, like, they're both on the same level of usability. In my opinion, anyway. Kingler. Kingler just disappoints me. He just really... I just don't really like Kingler. He's the worst water type because he can't utilize his water type. You'd think that in the Gen 1's, Gens 1 to 3, it's somewhat okay to have a low special on a special attacking type because that way you can still have like high attack. But no, this is not good for Kingler because the weaknesses that he has are all special. So he just dies to a leaf or a jolt of electricity. And the worst part is that I don't think that I'd go for a Pokemon that's reliant on TMs to be useful. So no thank you, not for me, Kingler. And it doesn't really get much better because next up is Electro. Somehow I think, well, he's somewhat similar, not really, but he's on the same level as Magneton. He has high speed, he's actually the fastest of all the Pokemon in Gen 1. And he has a pretty interesting utility in Thunder Wave, but other than that, he's just not as good as other electric types, like Raichu, for example, for God's sake. So he doesn't really have much to do. His move pool is also terrible, just like Magnetons. So yeah, there's that. Next up is Executor. Executor is a psychic type, but also aggressive, which means that he gets somewhat useful utility in Sleep Powder and Stun Spore, alongside Psychic. So you'd think that he is the best of the best, but, well, in my opinion, not really. He's available somewhat late in the game. However, I must admit that he can be useful, I think. This is another one that I haven't really used too much. So there's that. You know what? No, not any. You deserve to be. Let me see. I think you deserve to be right. He's slightly better than me, so even if Venusaur is available currently. Marowak is worse Sand Smash. No thank you. He's just not good. He has Earthquake, but that's all that he really gets. I know that he gets like other moves, but I don't think that's really all that useful when his special is low and counter is just terrible. Well, counter is not terrible, it's just very situational. Next up are the Hitmons, Chan and Lee. Hitmon Lee is somewhere right here. I think it's slightly worse than Primate because they're both Lee and Chan are both embarrassingly frail and not very fast. However, Lee at least has access to high jump kick, which is a slightly better move than submission, which is all that Hitmonchan gets, and Hitmonchan is a lot worse for that. Plus, he's not as good at, he's not as strong as other fighting types, not both offensively and defensively. There's not really much of use. There's not really much use. They're not. Both, neither of them are that useful, but I guess Hitmon Lee is slightly better, is what I'm trying to say. Next up is Lickitung, and just no, thank you. Not like I hate it. I just don't think it's going to be that useful. It gets Rap and Swords Dance, which you'd think would be somewhat negotiable, but I don't think it's really all that useful for it. Next up is Wheezy. Well, I don't really know what to make of him. I'm sorry if this upsets you, missing your master, but I've got nothing really to say about Wheezy. He's better than Luck because he actually gets like very interesting moves, but and I'm really sorry. I just don't know what to do with Wheezy. I've never used him. I don't think I don't think I'd really want to use a Pokemon with very few options in terms of offense and or defense, or support really. So, yeah, I mean he's got Explosion, I guess that's good. Don't worry, I'll try to play Pokemon Purple, I promise. I haven't really played that much because I've been preparing for my exams, trust me. I wasn't procrastinating. Please believe me. Rhydon is, well, he's the best ground type. I mean, he's a good ground type at least, and he's one of the best rock. He's the best rock type. That's what I'm trying to say. He has very interesting moves. However, his regular moveset is kind of generic. you're definitely going to use Rock Slide and Earthquake. However, the two other slots are just filler, really. Like, he gets things like Surf, Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, I think, but that's not really all that useful for him, aside from Surf, which allows you to swim along the water. I guess that I think he deserves this place. He is a bit lower than the other ones, the other Pokemon in S tier, because he's available somewhat late. However, I must admit that when I was using him, he was quite chancy. I wanted to say that I would put you in D tier because you're so annoying to get, but well, she is just really weird. Not in terms of like inspiration, but in terms of like everything around it. First of all, it's a special. It's not only a special warp type, it's also a special wall. So I think it can like survive certain hits, certain special hits being thrown at it. Well, it can survive pretty much any special hit thrown at it, and it can dish them back out. Thanks to the fact that special is pretty good on this thing. However, it's like not. It's available in two locations, the Safari Zone and Cerulean Cave. And Cerulean Cave is post-game only, which I forgot to mention, but I'm not going to count that. And Safari Zone is just like, it's the Safari Zone. What do you want me to say about it? If you do get it, then good for you, but if you don't want it, then don't get it. Tangela. Where in the world is Tangela? Well, it's right. It's right here. Yeah, it's the pure grass type, which is somewhat good, but it's available extremely late. Too late for what? Here. Damn it. It's available extremely late, so by the time you get it, it's probably not going to be as good as certain other Pokemon, both in terms of support and offense. It has like solid good bulk, but I don't really think anyone really. I don't think anyone is clamoring to use Tangela on their team, and there's that. You know, Kangaskhan. This thing is weird. Yeah, I guess you deserve to be here. Again, another Safari Zone Pokemon like Chansey. However, it's much worse. It's trying to be like a physical attacker, definitely, because its special is awful. However, because its special is awful, it's not really up to much. I guess the fact that it's a normal type is quite good. It's I don't really know what to say again. I haven't really used it because again I'm not really planning on going through the Safari Zone to get this thing. I'm not going out of my way for it. So I guess you deserve to be here. I guess. Seadra is just like Blastoise and Dewgong and Golduck, but not really. Nothing is really special about it. It's still good. I guess you deserve to be here. Tentacruel is like still has better special, but he's got that poison typing, which isn't really as good. So yes, that's a point towards Seadra, I suppose. Seeking, I can't believe things, but Seeking is better than Kingler. The king dethrones the king. It's amazing, really. I'm not really sure where to put it, but like, it's usable. It's not like bad. I just don't think that It's as good as other water types. Well, it's not the worst type. It's just a water type. Stormy is available rather late, but I think it's worth it. Again, I haven't really used this thing, but I think it's useful. It's got that psychic typing and good moves, so you can recover. So you can basically, if you find this thing and you want it, then you should use it. I mean, I'm not gonna stop you there. Mr. Mime, it's a psychic type, yet another one, and this thing is pretty good. It's not as good as say Alakazam, but I will say that it's still quite useful. It's not as strong as Alakazam, and it's available through trading only. However, that might actually be a positive for it because it gets extra XP, and it also gets Thunderbolt, well, by TM only. So if you don't want an electric type, then you can use Mr. Mime for your electric type coverage. I guess that's kind of good in my opinion. So there's that. Now Scyther. Unfortunately, Scyther's bad. I mean, there's nothing that Scyther can do. It's just sad, really. Scyther only has the normal type attacks in red and blue. I'm saying that because it doesn't get wind attack. It only gets wind attack in yellow, and we're not talking about yellow. So if it faces a rock type or a flying or a ghost type, it's doomed. It's just doomed. Jinx is a really good ice type and psychic type. It's actually the Pokemon that I used during my playthrough of this game, and it was a really good Pokemon. It has a great. It doesn't really have that good special, but what it makes up for it is a Lovely Kiss, meaning that it's also one of the fastest users. It's also one of the faster users of sleep-inducing move. So if you put something to sleep, then it's pretty much free to do whatever it wants. Blizzard, Psychic, you name it. Speaking of Psychic, here's Electabuzz. It doesn't really have good special. It got good special attack in later generations, but not in this one. Ugh. It's also available incredibly late, so there's that problem. There's the issue of that. And Magmar is even worse because its attack is higher than special, and it's also incredibly late. So there's the problem of that. Now, Pinsir is kind of it's a stag beetle. So it's got really cool inspirations, and it's got really well. It doesn't really have a lot in terms of attack, but what it does get is good enough for it. Well, I don't really want to say it has Swords Dance, Bind. It's able to learn the normal type attacks, Body Slam, and Hyper Beam, and it gets Submission. So it's not really doomed against rock types. Against ghost types, it gets Seismic Toss. What you really want to do with the Pinsir is just set up Swords Dance and just go at it. Well, just go at it. I'm really bad at talking. Next up is Tauros. Again, yet another Pokemon that's like available incredibly late because of the Safari Zone being the way that it is. I still think that he is somewhat good. I guess the main thing that you're going for is body slam on this thing and hyper beam. I'm basically trying to make this Tauros as competitive as possibly can. Because otherwise, if you're not using TMs, then he's kinda useless. Gyarados. Gyarados is, in my opinion, one of the best water types in Gen 1. Sure, his flying typing is kind of a problem, but that's more than enough for the availability he gets. As a Magikarp, he's kind of weak. He's really weak, certainly even. But that's the same thing with Abra, and when Abra turns to Kadabra, it gets strong. So, does Magikarp do the same? In my opinion, yes. Absolutely. You can immediately teach him Bubble Beam, he learns quite a few attacks, he has really good special and physical attack, so he's not really like... He's just really, really good. I have used him on multiple occasions, and he succeeded in every one of them. In Gen 1 at least. Lapras is a nice type. Probably one no, well, I don't know. Like no, there's like only one of them. He gets good attacks, and honestly, he's just really, really good. The main problem is that you receive him very late. The main problem that you can face is that you get him incredibly late in the game. So I guess the main thing that you should worry about is that. But besides that, it's still quite good. It still gets good attacks, like I said, and its defensive prowess is quite good also. And its offenses are quite okay. Yeah, so there's that to mention. Next up is Ditto. Ditto. No, I think... No. No, you know what? There we go. Ditto is just intentionally bad. It only really got better because of the competitive. It only got better because of breeding, and once it received Imposter as its ability, then that's when Ditto got better. But in Gen 1, it doesn't really get any of that, so it's really pointless. Next up are the evolutions. If you picked any one of them, then congratulations! You're a regular human being. There's not really much I can really say about them, they're just kind of boring. Vaporeon is like an okay water type, it's available summon extremely late, but I guess it's still fine. Jolteon, you are a electric type, and electric types are kind of there. Flareon is a fire type. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's... Well, no, I do believe that I'm saying this. It's somewhat better than Magmar. The more I look at this tier list, the more it looks like nothing to me. I'm sorry. Next up is Porygon. Porygon isn't, like, the worst, but it doesn't really get much of anything of note. It's a special normal type, like Chansey, but besides that, it doesn't really... It gets recovered, and that's about it. I mean, you can always, like, look up its origin. I think it's pretty cool. But besides that, yeah, that's it. Omastar is a normal type. I'm losing it. No, Omastar is a rock type. Rock... well, it's a good defensive Pokemon and a somewhat okay water type because it can use water moves. who can't, Kabutops. I mean, it's still good. It's like the thing with Kabutops is that it gets Swords Dance, but it doesn't get Rock Stab, so it can't really. It only really utilizes normal type attacks with it. But I still think it's somewhat decent. The only problem I can really see with them is that you get them incredibly late. Actually, you know what? No, you deserve this, please. And you too. Aerodactyl, on the other hand, gets only fly and is kind of bad. Well, the rock type is kind of a good thing. It's more good than bad, but still, when it doesn't really do anything besides flying, it's really difficult for me to see anything of this thing. Next up is Snorlax. Actually, Snorlax is like really good. Absurdly. Snorlax not only is a normal type, but he's one of the beefiest, not counting Chansey. He has really good HP, and he has like he has really good attack. While he's slow, he can take certain hits, and he has amnesia to boost special moves. Yeah, special Snorlax. That's something to consider. Well, that's all I can really say about him, and I'm really getting tired. Articuno, that's kind of harsh, I know. Articuno is like kind of good. It's a flying type. Sora, Zapdos, and Moltres. No, you deserve to. No, you deserve. No, I guess. No, dang it. Yeah, fine, I guess you deserve to be here. They're both achieved incredibly late, and yeah, that's a problem with these three. Not like post-game late, but very late. Dragonite is it's also another one of those that just is incredibly late. I mean, it's got like some good attacks. It's not like terrible, but it's got Rap, which really should make him hate more, make me hate him more. Yeah, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Next up is Mewtwo, and I think I put him right here because he's post-game only, but he's so good that I guess he deserves a higher place than any of these mods. Next up is Mew, who is I just want to finish this already. Mew is pretty good. You get him pretty early, surprisingly. Much earlier than Abra, if you can believe it. And he gets like every move possible, and every move that he needs. And some moves that he doesn't really need, like Explosion. So I guess he deserves the place in S. And there we go, we just finally finished this. My eyes are really tired right now. So if you have like any opinions on this tier list, please comment now, because I don't think I definitely believe that I have barely tested a lot of these mods, and I'd really like some opinion on them. So just please comment. I'm not going to be like picky if you don't, but it'll be really nice for you to hear any opinion, for me to hear any opinions on this tier list. This is specifically in-game, by the way. I just hope you didn't forget. And that's it, I guess. Goodbye for now, and remember, the CDs don't burn.